rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Oh, goodness. So, there might be an end to the shutdown. It's now in the hands of the House. I'll get to more of that in just a few minutes. And I also understand that many of my Whiskey Warrior P1s are in the frozen tundra right now. Not that I meant to have the background. Of course, this was just a transfer anyway, because, you know, there's only like 45 night sleeps till Christmas. So I kind of had to start, you know, getting the Christmas vibe going here on the show. So that's where the snowy cabin comes from. And, of course, you all know that I love my fire in the background back here. I love that. So if the fire sound gets a little too much, okay, a little too much for while I'm talking, just let me know and I'll turn it down a little bit. Anyway, let's go ahead and get things kicked off because I got a lot to get to. So up first is, of course, Outlaw Dogs. Outlaw Dogs with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Outlaw Dogs as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, Outlaw Dogs, for that wonderful rendition of the Pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the Pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting or performing the Pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and attach it to an email. Send it off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. And, of course, I will get you into the rotation. For those of you that don't know, I am looking for number 21. Like to get 21, then of course immediately following that I'd like to get 22 because I like even numbers. So you know, call it an OCD thing if you want. I don't really care. Anyway, 21 and then of course 22. So get those in, and if you're doing it on your phone, I've heard from a very reliable source that all you have to do is hit share. And once you hit share, then you will get you know, the option to send it off, and you can send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. And, of course, I'll get you into the rotation. So do that. Do it now. Well, let's start off with a big 250th happy birthday to the Marine Corps. Now, as a recognition to the Marine Corps, I would like to play the Marines hymn. So please, you know, we're going to take a moment to congratulate the Marines on 250 years. And so here we go. And, of course, the Marine Corps hymn is one of, if not the most recognizable songs of all the services. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but the Marine Corps hymn is one of the first. In fact, they claim that it is the first oldest and the oldest service songs of our country. So there you go. Happy birthday to you, jarheads, leathernecks, whatever other kind of affectionate, this coming from an old grunt, Army grunt, but happy birthday, Marine Corps. Just so you are aware, we are watching. Tomorrow, of course, is Veterans Day. I'll see what I can come up with for a fantastic thing going on in Veterans Day, but I digress. Let's go ahead and kick off our headline sponsor. Of course, it is the Institute on the Constitution. Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. Oh, what am I doing? That's tomorrow night. Goodness. Tonight's headline sponsor. As I screw up, I do this all the time. Oh, my goodness. Oops, I'm messing that up, too, because that's not supposed to be there. There we go. Oh, I'm wearing one of their fantastic shirts. That's right. That is theflagshirt.com. These are fantastic patriotic shirts. They've got patriotic colors and designs. Colors, of course, in the red, white, and blue, but they've got all kinds of designs for it. And, yeah, I'm wearing one of the men's cotton polos. I love these things. They're fit perfect size and so on and so forth. They're very comfortable and very color fastedness. Anyway, head on over to theflagshirt.com, theflagshirt.com, and you can check out all of their styles, whether it's men's, women's, made in the USA, kids, the accessories for, the good old red, white, and blue. And right now they're highlighting their patriotic styles for fall, so you can go and check it out. They've got 3/4 zip pullovers, they've got hoodies, they've got all kinds of stuff. Fantastic shirts and styles available. You got to go and check them all out at theflagshirt.com. And if you order $75 or more of their product, they will give you free shipping. But I know not everybody can do $75 or more of gear. Maybe you only want like one singular shirt or whatever. You just want one shirt or maybe a few accessories that doesn't get up to $75. And because of that, I'm going to give you a little bit of a hand here. If you go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, that's flagshirt.americanperspective.online, you will be presented with a coupon code that you can copy and paste into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com and get yourself $5 off your order. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, where you'll be presented with a coupon code which you can copy and paste into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com and get $5 off your order. Go to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the interview last Saturday with Lisa Ekman. And for those of you that don't know, she wrote a book. It's called Deprogramming Democrats and Uneducating the Elite. You should go and check it out. Check out the interview. It was more of a conversation, I guess, than an interview, but you should go and check it out. And once you do that, then, of course, go and check out all the links in the show description or the video description and audio description, and check out all those links. Go to deprogrammingdemocrats.com, and you'll be able to pick up her book. Speaking of books, we were talking about, I kept her on the line a little bit, and we talked for a few more minutes after the program, and she made a good point. She was talking about things like how she has actually seen stuff that's online. You know, we put things online, and you would think that things online, once they're out there, they kind of stay out there. Well, she made the comment that she doesn't even trust necessarily things online. And the reason why is because she has actually seen things online get modified in real time. Not like she watched it actually happen, but for an example, she'd done some research at one point and then gone back to the same article a little while later and saw that it had been changed online. And, you know, we all know about the Internet Archives and things like that, but even then, you know, the web crawler would have had to, excuse me, would have had to come across and pick up the page before it had been changed. So you can't necessarily trust that something online isn't going to change. Well, I brought this up to her. This is my original book of the Federalist Papers. And even this book, which I thought was going to have everything in it. I mean, come on, it's the Federalist Papers, right? And it even says ideas that, you know, forged the American Constitution. I thought that this book was going to have everything in it. But it turns out it doesn't. It doesn't have every single Federalist paper as we know it within the book. Sorry, trying to put it back in my spot in the shelf. So I had to go and purchase another book, which is the unabridged version of the Federalist Papers. Now, ignore the fact that it says large print. That was the only, this was the only version available. That was the entire unabridged version of the original 1787 documents. So I had to go and purchase this and get it here. What's interesting about this is that this particular book, I mean, you guys know I love my books, right? Anyway, my wife is a little peeved because we're filling up the bookshelf. But anyway, these books, I grab books because I like books. I like having something in my hand. I like being able to read it. I like being able to highlight it. Those kinds of things if I'm gonna do any kind of research or whatever. But this book I picked up and yeah. So it has everything in it. It has all of them. So yeah. There we go. So I will most likely be quoting out of that book sometime in the near future. No guarantees, but yeah. Oh, yes, Bonnie, you know, forget the idea. I'm just going to say, forget the idea of presidential libraries. They should have an American Perspective Library. Maybe that's what I'll do, is I'll donate all of my books and everything afterward, after I pass, to some, you know, whatever you call it, we'll call it the Whiskey Warriors Library or something like that. I don't know. It's just anyway. All right. Goodness. All right. Let's get into tonight's topics. Well, first of all, a Whiskey Warriors Library. Okay, the Whiskey Warriors Library. Well, you got to have this book. Definitely had better show up in there for absolute certain. This one right here needs to be there. For sure. Anyway, Trump has gone and done what the Democrats, well, I mean, let's face it, the Democrats claim that he's going to do a whole bunch of things anyway, but Trump has finally gone and done what he said he was going to do, which is essentially that Trump has pardoned Rudy Giuliani and others involved in the challenge to the 2020 election. Now, the one thing that is missing from the proclamation, though, is good job, 3 Chevy. Good job. The proclamation states that the pardon does not actually apply to President Trump himself. So, yeah. Yeah, so President Trump has pardoned a number of prominent figures involved in his effort to challenge the 2020 election outcome, according to the U.S. pardon attorney Ed Martin on November 9th. Proclamation document shared by Martin on social media named more than 70 individuals, including Giuliani, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, attorneys Sidney Powell and John Eastman, all accused of involvement in Trump's bid to challenge the 2020 election results. So, there you go. And the pardons apply to conduct tied to the individual's involvement in activities surrounding the 2020 presidential election, as well as any conduct related to their efforts to expose voting fraud and vulnerabilities in the 2020 presidential election, according to the document. The document states this proclamation ends a grave national injustice perpetrated upon the American people following the 2020 presidential election and continues the process of national reconciliation. Now, folks, I'm just going to put this out, okay? I'm just going to put this out there. I do believe that the one thing, if you were going to target one thing that affected the 2020 election outcome, the one thing was the squashing of the Hunter Biden laptop story. And I'm just saying that because after the election was over, there were several polls that basically pointed to the fact that about 16% of people polled said that they would have changed their vote had they known about the Hunter Biden laptop. And that 16%, if extrapolated to the country, that would have overridden the 4% that went for of differential, I should say, between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So, yeah. That's all I'm going to say about that. Whether or not anything happened, I mean, it's kind of water under the bridge now. It'd be ridiculous to go back to it, but still, I personally do believe that the Hunter Biden laptop story, if you're going to point to any one given thing that affected the electorate across the nation, that definitely was it. So, anyway, the Trump pardon would only cover federal charges brought against those listed. The proclamation also explicitly states that the pardon does not apply to Donald Trump. So the question as to whether or not a president can pardon itself or pardon themselves still lingers. It's still out there. So anyway, neither Trump nor the White House released a statement regarding the pardons. The proclamation was signed by the president on November 7th, according to the document. So there you go. I mean, not that we're really all that surprised. It basically should have happened anyway. It should have happened a lot sooner than this, but I get it. All right. So it looks like the government. Sorry, my throat's a little dry. I had to grab a little drink. It looks like the government may be on the path to reopening. The Senate finally overcame the filibuster. However, this was not the original CR that the House had passed. This was an agreement that included, so this is where the modification comes in, that included a 3 full year, so that's 3 separate 1-year appropriations bills wrapped into one, basically known as a minibus. Not an omnibus, but a minibus. The Senate advanced this bill on an exact 60-40 split yesterday. Okay? The Democrats that voted for it, Fetterman, Cortez Masto, Durbin, Rosen, Shaheen, Kane, Hassan, and Angus King joined the Republicans to reach that 60-vote threshold to advance it. Now, there was mixed reactions with the Democrats. I'll get to some of those in a minute, but the Democrats are kind of pissed. Anyway, what is part of this is the fact that there is no health care piece in this bill. So the first thing is that this deal funds the government through January 30th. And it allows appropriations and communications and negotiations to continue with long-term bills to fund the government through the end of the fiscal year all the way to September 30th of 2026. Now, it does include 3 full-year appropriations bills. And of these 3, it is going to include funding through September 30th of 2026. The Department of Agriculture, Department of Veteran Affairs, Military Construction, the FDA, and the legislative branch. It's going to fund SNAP through the rest of the fiscal year. It reverses cuts to government workers, meaning that all of those workers, the federal workforce that got cut during the shutdown, it reverses all of those. The workers, in addition to be reinstated, will also get back pay once everything is over. Okay? It guarantees a vote, at least, on extending the Obamacare subsidies. And that is, that pretty much is it. I mean, those are the 3 parts. You know, funding SNAP, reversing cuts to government workers, and guaranteeing a vote on extending Obamacare subsidies. And notice that doesn't say that it will pass. All it says is that it guarantees that there's a vote that's going to come up about it. So, a lot of Democrats who were thinking that this was all about, oh, it's all about health care. Yeah. One of the members, Tim Kaine, who is from Virginia, he crossed the picket line, per se, and voted for this bill. And he basically flat out said the reason that he did it is because of the fact that it brings back people who got fired and are going to get paid. So his motivation had nothing to do with the health care. His motivation was just getting his constituents brought back in and paid for their time, for the time that they've been off. And that's essentially one of the things that he was excited about. Well, immediately after this occurred, many people, including Ro Khanna, were calling for the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, to step down. There's a backlash over his leadership from within the Democrat Party to get rid of him, to have him, basically step down. And they're saying, of course, that he doesn't have the ability to keep the Democrat Party together for all of this. He is being criticized for failing to get all of the Democrats to fall into line. And it's underscoring, of course, the growing tensions within the party over the legislative strategy and the leadership. So again, we've still got some discourse happening within the Democrat Party. So, the Democrats, of course, have been demanding an extension to the ACA's tax credits, and making them think that health insurance is affordable for millions of Americans. It's not. It's not even close. And this deal that was done yesterday only includes promises from Republicans to actually hold a vote on it by mid-December. So Schumer is still facing backlash. He's been facing backlash from within his party from his March debacle, where he backed a Republican-led continuing resolution which was a stopgap funding bill that failed to include any restrictions on President Donald Trump and efforts by Elon Musk to dismantle federal agencies and overhaul government operations. So, yeah. Don't be surprised if you see an AOC challenge to Chucky's Senate seat in New York. I'm just saying. Not that I'm got a crystal ball or anything, but all signs point to yes if you go with the Magic 8 Ball. Maybe I should get one of those for the show. What do you guys think? Should I get one of those for the show and then we should, do like a Magic 8 Ball moment? I don't know. You tell me. Anyway, now, of course, Schumer, before the vote, said that America is in the midst of a Republican-made healthcare crisis, which is a bunch of crap. It's not. It was a Democrat-created healthcare crisis. Not a Republican healthcare crisis. But again, as you heard on Saturday, these people all fall in line and get lockstep. They're like the Star Trek Borg, which, I never actually used that terminology for Lisa. I wonder what she would have thought about that. Maybe I need to email her and ask her thoughts on that. But anyway, he continued on and was saying that he was going to vote no on it. So, but that position, of course, has failed to stem the criticism over what some within his party say is his failure to rally Democrats in opposition to the Republicans. So Gavin Newsom, of course, had to weigh in on this. He basically said, tonight's Senate vote on the federal government shutdown should have been a time for strength. Instead, we saw capitulation and a betrayal of working Americans. No, you idiot. No. What you saw was government opening up so they could actually get business done. Well, I mean, for those of you that don't really understand because you didn't have Schoolhouse Rock, the coolest thing to kind of talk to you about things like English and comprehension and government operations, civil government and stuff. Anyway, let me Schoolhouse Rock this for you. So now that the Senate has made these changes to the continuing resolution, this now goes back to the House of Representatives. And so Speaker Johnson has called back all of the representatives for the House of Representatives, and he has promised that they will vote on this changed continuing resolution or this minibus bill as soon as possible, meaning that it could be a day or two, depending upon how those how many of those House of Representatives actually get back into the House on the one side of the hill and get back into place. So, it might be another day or two before we actually end the government shutdown, but we see the light at the end of the tunnel. Because realistically, the House of Representatives, all the Republicans, just the entire Republican Party has to vote for this, and that should, knock out this whole government shutdown thing. And I honestly, I don't see the Republicans necessarily, because this really didn't do much of a change, realistically. I mean, it sort of did, but it sort of didn't. And so, there really isn't a lot that was given up with this, which is part of the reason why the Democrats, the staunch leftist lunatics, are so pissed off right now, because you have basically had seven Democrats and one independent who realistically are in areas where they could very easily get bumped off. They're in purple areas for the most part where they could easily get bumped off. And Nana of JJS over on Rumble says, does anyone else feel that the flights being delayed and canceled help push the resolution? I honestly think, Nana, that there were a few things. One is the Democrats basically, quote unquote, won in this past election cycle. They were looking for that. Two was that, yes, the flights were starting to be canceled. They were getting shut down because the air traffic controllers couldn't keep up with the load. and so on and so forth. Third was SNAP benefits, and these are not necessarily in a particular order. They're just more of a bullet point list. But third was the SNAP benefits and all of that coming to a head. I think all three were basically what is going on. And in fact, I don't even believe this whole bullcrap about this all being about healthcare was really what it was all about. And I'm not the only one that thinks that way. In fact, the majority whip in the House, Tom Emmer, who's a Republican from Minnesota, he said during an appearance on Breitbart News Saturday that he goes, I don't think you can believe a thing that comes out of Chuck Schumer's mouth. He says this whole thing this is about health care. You already know this. If it was about health care, why did they offer a counter offer in writing in the Senate that was 68 pages long? He noted that the Democrats demanded the $1.5 trillion in the additional spending. Emmer noted that only 1.5 pages of that 68-page $1.5 trillion actually referenced healthcare. And he says the fact of the matter is, it is the Affordable Care Act that has caused the problem. He pointed out that Schumer and the Democrats brought that to the American people, not the Republicans. Emmer states it's not affordable. Since they created this law of the land, insurance premiums for families across this country are up 80%. And now what do they want to do? They're telling you this is about trying to extend those temporary tax credits that were created during COVID, which they're telling us now Democrats had it expiring at the end of December because they were only supposed to be temporary because the extraordinary measures they claim they had to take during COVID in the pandemic, that somehow the whole system. Oh, and he was saying that Democrats were now saying that that if it was not renewed, that somehow the whole system was going to collapse. Emmer observed people who are listening should recognize this is further condemnation by the Democrats themselves and an admission that their Affordable Care Act actually made health care unaffordable in this country. And he is not wrong. Premiums increased. Premiums increased the minute the ACA got into place because of the fact that the insurance companies were now being forced to provide insurance for people that they were not able to necessarily pay, and were using it honestly without being able to pay for things. And it was forcing by the way, this is this whole third-party payer system. If you've never heard Milton Friedman talk about the third-party payer system, you really should. There are some great videos on YouTube of him explaining what happens with the third-party payer system. And here's the thing. When you have a third-party payer system, okay, just to break this down really quick, when you have a third-party payer system, the government doesn't care about the quality of services that you get because it's not their money that they're using to pay for it. They're using taxpayer money. So they don't even give a crap as to the level of care in which you get. They also don't give a crap how much it costs for whatever level of care that you actually get. Because again, it's not their money. They're not the ones being provided the services. So they don't really give a crap whether it's expensive and lacks quality. They don't care. And that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. Is that government sticks its nose in and says, hey, we're not going to pay more than X for this. And so what do the insurance companies do? They're like, well, hey, if the government's not going to pay us more for that, but they aren't going to, they don't care about how many copays or whatever, how much copay that we're going to jack that up. We're going to jack up the premiums. Do you honestly believe that these corporations that are being forced to be put onto this basically they're going to collect the money somehow? They're not stupid. They don't go and just say, hey, you know what? We're just going to take the cut. It's the same thing, same thought process with things like minimum wage. Oh, we have to pay everybody $20 an hour, $30 an hour. We have to pay everybody that. Well, what you don't seem to understand is that these corporations that are paying $20 an hour, $30 an hour, they're not taking it out of their profits. They're not stupid. They modify the prices that they're being given. I mean, this is freaking nuts. This is totally crazy. For this whole idea to think that the government can actually do something better than the private sector can. For those of you that don't study history, don't study actual economics, whenever you privatize something and take it into the private sector finds ways, because of competition, to do it faster, better, and cheaper. It's an almost 100% guarantee, especially when there's no monopoly. When you have a third-party payer system, when the government steps in and says, hey, we're going to take this over, now all of a sudden you have a monopoly, and the government doesn't give a crap. They don't care because it's not their money and it's not their services. So why should they care? They have no idea what's going on. They don't really care. So, yeah. Anyway, this is all part and parcel as to why this whole idea that the federal government, I mean, I won't even go down the path, because I'm going to anyway, but go down the path of the fact that healthcare is not a constitutionally mandated responsibility of the federal government and has zero connection to anything that is in Article 1, Section 8. None. Nada. Zero. Zilch. I'm still waiting for a Democrat or a leftist lunatic to try and prove to me that there is a item in Article 1, Section 8 that actually connects directly to something like healthcare as a responsibility of the federal government. I guarantee you it doesn't exist. And I can prove and show and demonstrate through the Federalist Papers. Oh my gosh. The Federalist Papers. Ooh, I could prove by this book and numbers 14, 41, and 45 that yes, the federal government was designed and supposed to be cut and hemmed in and fenced in by the enumerated items that are in Article 1, Section 8. And that this idea that Congress can just make whatever laws that they want, yeah, that's thrown out the window. That's in, I believe it's Federalist 41. Anyway, I digress. All right. Well, we may actually find out whether some states are breaking the law when it comes to elections. I'll get into that here in just a moment, but let me talk to you about this wonderful elixir that I drink every single morning. And let me tell you, it wakes me up every single day. I have it in my coffee cup. Oh, I just gave it away. Yes, it's coffee, but I have it in my 16-ounce cup that was given to me by my wonderful whiskey children. They gave me a father like no other cup, and I use it every single day. And I'm talking, I don't even take days off, man. I'm telling you, every single day it comes in. Well, if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit has dropped. There's a small number of units available. In each unit, you're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee, which has clean energy and laser focus with zero crash. All of these coffees are single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip. That's my personal favorite because Freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother that is strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. Not like you really needed any help to do that, because believe me, mother-in-laws, they always have opinions. Oh, and by the way, you're also going to receive a black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just the low, low price of $99. This is for the ones who have been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Go to the numbers 1775, the word coffee, that's all together. So 1775coffee.com/studio, STUDIO. And by the way, that slash is a /. That's your question mark key. So once again, the website 1775coffee.com/studio to grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit today. All right. Well, the Supreme Court decided to pick up a case that may determine whether or not these places that allow mail-in ballots to arrive and still be counted after Election Day, yeah, that might be a bit of a problem. Well, there's a federal law that's being challenged that states that states need to stop accepting mailed ballots after Election Day. And this has been challenged. The Supreme Court decided this morning that they would go ahead and consider it. What's even cooler about this is not a single justice dissented against picking this up. So that means all of them are interested in this case for whatever reason. They are all interested in it. So the Republican National Committee, the state Republican Party, this is the case called Watson versus the Republican National Committee. And the Republican National Committee, the state Republican Party, and the state's Libertarian Party sued over the law. 18 states of our 50 accept mail-in ballots received after Election Day if they bear a postmark from on or before Election Day. Now, I know Washington does, and this is according to the National Conference of State Legislatures report. Mississippi Secretary of State Michael Watson filed the petition with the Supreme Court back in June. Federal election law sets the Tuesday after the first Monday in November every 4 years as the election day for federal offices. Mississippi law requires that ballots for federal offices have to be marked and filed with election officials by that day. But it also permits ballots to be counted if the election officials receive them within 5 business days after Election Day. Now, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit ruled that the federal law requiring ballots be cast and received by elections officials by Election Day preempts or prevails over the Mississippi law. The Fifth Circuit's decision defines statutory text, conflicts with the court's precedent, and if left to stand, will have destabilizing nationwide ramifications. 5 circuit judges said in dissent from a denial of rehearing that the ruling is deeply wrong and raises an issue of exceptional importance, the petition said. I'm telling you, folks, this is the This is again another case that the Supreme Court has on its docket, or will have on its docket, that is potentially going to change a whole bunch of things. That's right. It's potentially it's going to potentially change a bunch of things. So, yeah. There's a related case that the Supreme Court seemed receptive to on October 8th to a Republican congressman's argument that he should be allowed to challenge an Illinois law that allows the counting of ballots for 2 weeks after Election Day. Arguments in that case, known as Bost versus Illinois State Board of Elections, focused on the question of legal standing as opposed to the actual merits of the lawsuit contesting the Illinois statute. Okay. Standing refers to the right of someone to sue in court. A party must show a strong enough connection to the claim to justify participating in a lawsuit. So, yeah. Which we'll just have to kind of see what's going to happen here. But, again, another Supreme Court. This is a very, very impactful Supreme Court, folks, that's coming on. Oh, this is a great 4 years. This is going to be fantastic. All right, I don't know if anybody noticed, but there's that public broadcasting company known as the BBC across the pond. And by that, I mean, yes, it is the British Broadcasting Corporation. Okay. Well, they apparently doctored Donald Trump's speech on January 6th. And apparently the head of the BBC resigned yesterday after criticism of the fact that the BBC edited the speech by President Donald Trump. So the BBC said that Director General Tim Davie and Head of News Deborah Turness, I hope I spelled that or pronounced that correctly. Anyway, both announced their resignations on Sunday. Britain's public broadcaster had been criticized for editing a Trump speech that was made on January 6, 2021, prior to the protesters and the whole dust-up at the Capitol. Critics said that the speech was edited for a BBC documentary and was misleading because it specifically cut out the section where Donald Trump states that he wanted supporters to demonstrate peacefully and patriotically. Now, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said on Sunday this purposely, dishonestly, selectively edited clip by the BBC is further evidence that they are total 100% fake news that should no longer be worth the time on the television screens of the great people of the United Kingdom. Yes, folks. And, by the way, in the resulting aftermath of this, Trump is actually considering suing the BBC for this. Yep. Now, how many times do you think that documentary edited video might show up? You know, and, you know, the leftists that are out there saying, oh, yeah, he never said to peacefully and patriotically protest. He never said it. See, I got a video from the BBC that says this. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, sure. Anyway, yeah. Now, the reasons that they say that they were leaving, these two, were basically because Davies, of course, said that he was him leaving after being in place for 5 years. It's entirely his decision. He said that he was working through exact timings with the board to allow for an orderly transition to a successor over the coming months. And the director underneath him, who basically said that the controversy about the Trump documentary has reached a stage where it is starting to cause damage to the BBC. Yeah, guess what? You caused the damage, you dumbass. You two caused the damage by selectively editing the video to take out the key and crucial and important part of his speech. where he said to peacefully and patriotically go over to the Capitol and make your opinions known. Could you imagine? I mean, seriously, come on. Could you imagine if that video was otherwise? Then yes, you know what? I would have been on the Trump train. Or not on the Trump train. I would have been against the Trump train. I would have been like, hey, no. He very well could be in trouble for insurrection for that. But no. The man literally stated during his speech to peacefully and patriotically make your opinions known, which, last I checked, is in the First Amendment to the Constitution. You know, this wonderful book right here, this little one, yeah, this little one right here, Constitution of the United States. That one. Yeah. All right. Well, apparently the BBC is now facing greater scrutiny than other broadcasters because of its status as a national institution funded through an annual license fee of $230 paid by all households with a television. You believe that crap? You believe that? They actually are taxing people $230 annually to fund this, what is supposed to be public broadcasting. Oh, by the way, just as a little hint, for those who are out there talking about, especially those Democrat morons that are out there, who are talking about this whole thing with the NPR and PBS and all of that crap, our Constitution doesn't require the federal government to fund broadcasting. Yeah, you know that little section called Article 1, Section 8 that tells the federal government what it can do? Yeah, that one. Anyway. You can't believe anything that's on any of this stuff. Seriously. You just can't. You just can't. All right. Sorry. Another drink. All right. Really quickly here in the final closing minutes. Ma'am Danny. Yep. He has already decided. He hasn't even taken his oath of office yet, which, by the way, he is going to be sworn in on January 1st. Okay. But he has already stated an intent to violate federal law. I mean, not that this would be anybody's surprise, because he sort of promised all of this throughout his entire time that he was, campaigning and stuff. But Ma'am Danny has vowed to not let the NYPD help with ICE immigration enforcement. Now, I seem to recall there's this thing, and it's federal law. Maybe I could be wrong on this, but I believe it's like Title 18, U.S. Code, Section 111. Something about, impeding officers, keeping them from doing their jobs. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, obstruction. Yeah, obstructing an officer. Yeah, from doing their job. Federal officer. Yeah, I seem to recall that. That's a federal violation. Somebody needs to go over and take this guy and, arrest him. The minute he walks into office and says, hey, the NYPD, you guys aren't helping us at all, or you guys aren't helping ICE at all. Yeah, they should just have a federal warrant issued right there. And just say, yep, you're under arrest now. Honestly. Well, he kept talking about, and he campaigned on, this whole idea that he was going to do free buses. He was going to do, free grocery stores. He was going to do rent-controlled everything in New York. Make things affordable, so on and so forth. Well, Kathy Hochul, who's the governor, which, by the way, I just want you guys to understand. In New York, the taxes that are in New York City have to actually pass through the state apparatus. And so Kathy Hochul has already stated, even though she supported that guy, okay, even though she supported him, she has already stated that she has strong disagreements with certain issues that really do not pertain to the governance of New York City. She's already pointed out that she's not behind this idea of busing, free busing, for an example, because she says that she basically says, I cannot set forth a plan right now that takes money out of a system that relies on fares of the buses and subways. Now, she did this during a Saturday press conference. Okay. She also said, but can we find a path to make it more affordable for people who need help? Of course we can. So this whole idea that he ran on in terms of things like free buses, yeah, that ain't going to fly. That ain't going to fly. She also went on to say that she'd had a number of conversations with Ma'am Danny and that she wanted to work with him where she could, but that she wasn't going to suddenly change her position on an issue solely due to what she called public pressure. She says, we've aligned on some of these issues, but I've made it clear where I have strong disagreements with issues that really do not pertain to the governance of New York City. I'm looking forward to having our teams keep the conversation, a lot of the conversations, going with our teams. She went on to say that her current focus was doing whatever she could to prevent an influx of ICE agents operating in New York City. So that's her focus. Her focus is to make sure that ICE can't do its job. So guess what? There's another person. Yeah, there's another person that should be picked up for blocking federal law. Yeah. Anyway. Well, in case you didn't have any hope, folks, in terms of this whole, we'll call it social contagion of students in your town having to use preferred pronouns of their classmates. Well, Ohio has shown us all how it's done. So apparently there was a school district in Ohio, one of Ohio's largest school districts, has been told by the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals last Thursday that they cannot be forced to use the, quote, preferred pronouns, or they can't even be forced to actually acknowledge the gender identity of their identifying classmates. So the, I'm going to mess this up, Olentangy, yeah, Olentangy local school district was punishing students for discrimination by referring to trans-identifying classmates by their biological pronouns or using gendered language they know is contrary to the student's identity. The district encompasses the large suburban area just north of Columbus and is Ohio's fourth largest school district. Now, the 112-page ruling smacked down the policy that was put in place to do so. The court ruled that the policy raises serious free speech concerns. The case was brought by the advocacy group Parents Defending Education, which now just goes by Defending Education. The conservative group argued that the policy itself was unconstitutional and forced students to adopt speech that went against their religious beliefs. Numerous other conservative and religious groups, including the Alliance Defending Freedom and the Manhattan Institute, signed an amicus brief opposing the school district's policy. In its ruling, the appeals court stated that the school district had introduced no evidence that the use of biological pronouns would disrupt school functions or qualify as harassment under Ohio law. The court added in its ruling, our society continues to debate whether biological pronouns are appropriate or offensive, just as it continues to debate many other issues surrounding transgender rights. The school district may not skew this debate by forcing one side to change the way it conveys its message or by compelling it to express a different view. Yes, folks. Yes. You need to understand, people, that regardless of what you may think, free speech means free speech. If you get offended, guess what? Guess what happens when you're offended? You get offended. Nothing else. You sit there and steam and stew in your own mind because you're offended, but nothing else happens. Nothing else happens, folks. All I'm saying is that is a win, a decisive win for reality. Alrighty, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and make sure you hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget to give me the thumbs up, thumbs down if you really want, or if you're 3 Chevy, the thumbs sideways across all of my platforms, whether it's X, Facebook, YouTube, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.